Hey, YouTube family. I'm Paula Pant.
I'm Joe Saul-Sehy.
You're a former financial planner, so you got street cred.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yes, that's why we bring you on the show, Joe. You're the resident expert. I do. I did just get a master's in business and economic journalism. So there. Now I'm official. I can officially talk about things.
And I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express once.
Wow. Oh, Mr. Fancy Pants over here.
You know.
I don't know. So hello YouTube. We're doing videos now, like actual videos because turns out YouTube is designed for
thing.
that. You're
Yeah,
right?
we think it's not a fad anymore.
Yes.
This might stay around, so we should do some videos for you.
And we're going to answer a question now. We're going to answer a question about from a teacher who wants to know what to do with a gift that she received, a cash gift, a large cash gift. I won't give it away. No spoilers. No spoilers here. But here we go. Our next caller is anonymous.
Ooh.
Also.
Are we going to do another Cocaine Bear reference?
We
Like
are
did
not. We
no.
are not. We did that. That's
there.
been done. That's
Been there.
been done. But I do want to talk about this thing. So one of my podcast listeners, actually, who I met at a financial independence retreat. Sometimes I get gifts from podcast listeners, and this one particular listener sent me this thing called a squatty potty. Have you heard of it, Joe?
Are we seriously just bringing this back around to potty again?
So if you live in a country like the United States where you don't have a squat toilet, but you want to mimic the experience of having a squat toilet, meaning you want to kind of, keep your knees elevated, it can help with constipation. There's this thing called the squatty potty. And it was inspired. So on the topic of side hustles and entrepreneurship, the Squatty Potty is a $30 million business, right?
And they have the best commercials.
$30 million business. And it was inspired by a woman named Judy who was constipated and needed to keep her knees up so that she could mimic being in a squat position while using a United States toilet, right? A non-squat toilet. So, in honor of Judy, who inspired the creation of the $30 million Squatty Potty business, the Squatty Potty empire, our next caller is going to be Judy.
Hi, Paula and Joe. I'm a big fan of the show, and I learn so much every week.
I bet.
My question today is about how to think about windfalls. I'm a teacher earning $66K between salary and tutoring. I got started with saving late. I was in grad school until I was 32, thankfully not going into debt, but not saving much. I'm currently 39, single, no kids, and I have a total of $126K in retirement. I contribute 10% to my 403B, and my employer contributes an additional 5%. I'm currently putting another 5% into a Roth. I now have $119K in my 403B and $7.5K in my Roth. I do have a quick question about that. How much would you put into a Roth in my circumstances where I don't really expect my tax bracket to go up by a ton by retirement? All of my funds are in Vanguard Lifecycle Index 2050. I know I'll do better soon. A year ago, I bought a house for $180K. I have $140K remaining on a 30-year mortgage fixed at 4.375. No other debt. I have about $34K of my own savings in a high-yield savings account. My question is really about money I've received as gifts. In the past few years, my parents have gifted me $60K incredibly generously. Right now, it's sitting in a CD and I-bonds. In addition, I have $20K in savings bonds for my grandparents. My challenge is with how to think about this money. In some ways, I feel ashamed that I didn't earn it. In other ways, I think about a society that values my labor as a teacher so much less monetarily than that of my lawyer parent, and then I just feel grateful for my parents' generosity. In either case, I want to use this money wisely. One thing I'm sure about is that it can't be anything I come to need to pay the bills. I've thought about putting some of it into retirement or my house, but I wonder if that's really the best use of it. I think I'm reasonably on track for retirement if I continue at this 20% rate. Does that seem right? After pondering, I think what I'd most like to do with the money is to use it to create room for some larger occasional expenditures that are really hard when you're living on one relatively modest income and trying to save ahead for things that are likely to break in an older home. What I really, really want to do is to take a 2-week trip to Uzbekistan for about $5,000 next summer. In general, I would be very happy if I could plan to take a $5,000 trip every, say, 2 or 3 years. I think my family would feel like I was using the money well if I used it for meaningful things over time, rather that be trips I care about or something really special for my home. So often on the show, you talk about where to put money in terms of when you need it. The challenge here is that I don't really have a set timeline. I wonder, does what I'm describing seem like a reasonable vision? If so, where would you put the money? How would you figure out how much to spend and at what rate? Thank you so much for any thoughts or framing you can give me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Judy, I love the question. First of all, please, please, please do not feel ashamed at receiving these gifts. The work that you do is wonderful and meaningful, and it changes lives. It is not highly compensated, but it is so, so valuable. Second of all, you are stewarding this gift with wisdom and thoughtfulness. You are, the way to disrespect a gift is by being flippant or casual about it, right? There are people who spend their whole lives building a legacy for future generations, only for that future generation to squander it. And that's disrespectful to, the ancestors. But what you are doing is the opposite. What you are doing is respecting the gift that your parents and grandparents have given you by being so thoughtful about it. I can tell from the question that you asked, from not just the words that you used, but also the tone in your voice, right? That is how you respect this money and the labor that your parents and grandparents used in order to procure it. And the third reason is giving is a blessing to both the giver and the receiver, right? Gracefully receiving a gift is itself a loving act towards the person who gave it, because you're allowing yourself to receive. So for all of those reasons, I would, encourage you not to feel ashamed about this. And in fact, I love that rather than relying on this to pay bills, you want to use it for something meaningful. I think everything that you outlined is a wonderful idea. Putting it into a retirement account would be a wonderful way of signaling, hey, thank you for giving this to me. I'm going to make sure that this money is put in place in order so that I can take care of my future self. When I am in my 70s or 80s, and maybe my health is not what it is today, future me will be cared for. And I know that, that's what your parents and grandparents would want. I think that's a wonderful thing to do with it. Using it to pay off part of your mortgage, if that's what you wanted to do, is also another wonderful way to use it. Again, because that is just a different iteration of taking care of the future version of you. And using it to travel, like Uzbekistan, I love, first of all, I love the specificity of Uzbekistan, right?
Yeah.
That tells me that you've really put a lot of thought into this. Like you didn't, not that there's anything wrong with going to some of the more common places that people go, but if you're talking about Uzbekistan, you have really spent some time deeply studying the globe and thinking about places that you could visit that would really enrich your life. So I think that's a wonderful use of the funds. And it sounds as though with no debt, with 20% of your income going towards retirement, it sounds as though everything else is on track, as far as I can tell.
I think she's close enough, though, that with her money, that I don't think of those three choices, I don't think I'd pay off the mortgage. I think the mortgage is at a low enough interest rate. Like, that is my least favorite. Don't get me wrong. Studies show that people pay off their mortgage before they retire are happier, and it's great to be conservative. So it's a good use. But the other two I find much more compelling.
100% agree. Yes, entirely.
I'm with you, Paula. Two things I thought right away. She said she doesn't have a timeline. That is baloney. She definitely has a timeline of when she's going to use the money, but it depends on which one of these two choices she decides on. If she decides to put it in a retirement account, well, then we know she doesn't need it until retirement, and then she's got her timeline of that money, and she can invest it appropriately in investments that have the growing season that fit that timeline, right? Stocks and real estate, great for long-term, short-term. Right now she's in CDs, I-bonds, perfect for short-term stuff. So immediately she goes into long-term mode. She can transfer it into index funds that meet that criteria. If she goes the other way into this becoming a travel fund, well, then she can break those into CDs matching that amount of time for the short-term ones. And the longer ones, the ones that are longer than maybe 7, 8, 9 years, those years worth of travel that she's budgeting for, she can put again, I think, into the financial markets, especially 10 years out. I think she can do that without much worry. So she's got her timelines. I think she just has to decide which of these two. Now, my feelings about both of these. Number one is if she goes with putting it toward retirement, that means that the Uzbekistan trip is going to come out of her budget. And so she's going to have to find a way to get that money, and that might upset the apple cart when it comes to her fantastic, as my mom says, when it comes to that fantastic savings rate that she has. She might have to slow it down if she does that. That's a big trip every couple of years. So putting the money aside for the trip, make sure she continue on the strategy that she's on with her savings rate, with freedom from worry.
Wait, Joe, something just occurred to me. All right, so she's 39 years old, right? Yeah. And she talked about wanting to take a trip every 2 to 3 years. Let's take the shorter of that number. Let's assume that she's going to take a trip every 2 years until she reaches retirement age. So let's just say from age 40 until age 60, she's going to take a trip every 2 years. So over a 20-year time span, that's 10 trips at a cost of $5,000 per trip. That's $50,000. She has $80,000. So even if she were to say $50,000 of this is my travel money, that still leaves the other $30,000 that she can put into retirement accounts.
And now she's got a timeline for all of it. $30,000 goes into retirement accounts, and then the rest into
exactly.
Of the two, because she already has this savings habit going, she's got the system going, and I think it's a good system that she has. I would now, if it were me, and it's not me, and I think that we need to be clear about this. This is Judy's goal, not Joe's goal. If it were me, though, I think I would work to protect that habit. Just this would protect that habit, and this would be that travel money. Plus, this is the other thing, Paula. When I was a planner, I saw people that would just never take the trips because of the guilt feeling. And when she led with the guilt feeling, like you feel so guilty about that money and the fact that you have it, you're like, oh, maybe I'll let it grow a little more. Maybe I'll grow. But the thing it's not growing is your time on earth. So I would take the trips. And I think that then she creates those meaningful memories, which is what the money is used for. I love it when people, by the way, give money before they pass away. I think anybody out there that is already financially independent, they know they have enough money for themselves, no matter what they do. Like, take the amount you think you're going to spend and double it. And if you still have money left over, I love the idea of gifting it to people and organizations you care about while you're alive. They can use it sooner. You get the reward of watching them flourish because of your help. They're probably more likely to spend it in a way that is less wasteful because they know that you're still there, and you can see them spending the money. So I think it works from a lot of different places. But in this case, I think she's got the timeline. I think she does have a timeline for no matter which way she goes.
I'm looking up facts about Uzbekistan right now.
Of course you are.
Of course,
Yes.
of course. Because in my head, I was like, "Wait, we've never changed somebody's name before, but can we change her name from Judy to the name of some famous Uzbekistani?"
Well, before we get there, I just need to know if Squatty Potties have a foothold yet in Uzbekistan.
Foothold. There's a pun.
Is there a pun there?
There's a pun.
I didn't know there's a pun there.
Could you put your feet on the squat anyway?
Maybe next to it. If you put your foot in it,
So,
then you might have a problem.
Judy, we'll just stick with Judy for now. The other thing that occurs to me, so the $5,000 figure for the trip to Uzbekistan, as well as any future trips, if that's what you want to spend, that's amazing. But one thing that I would encourage you to look into, if, and I'm saying this not just for you, but for the sake of everyone listening, if you are sure that you can pay off a credit card in full every month, right? If you use a credit card just for ordinary expenses like your groceries, your gasoline, just ordinary everyday expenses, if you know you're not going to do extra spending because you've got it, if you know you're going to pay it off in full, then what I would do is I would take out a card that gives you airline miles. And especially if you're planning on taking one trip every 2 years, I'm guessing you're going to be able to buy this airline ticket with miles just by using the miles that accumulate from normal daily spending on your credit card. If you pay it in full every month. So I don't know if the 5,000 figure includes airfare or not, but if it doesn't, and the reason I'm thinking about this is Uzbekistan is not it's not like Japan that a high cost, and it's not an expensive country to travel in. There are some parts of the globe that are just significantly cheaper to travel in than others, and the biggest cost factor of that trip is the airfare. But once you're there, the food is cheap, the accommodations are cheap, ground transportation is cheap. So, you can probably significantly reduce the cost of some of the trips that you want to take by using airline miles to fly there. And that changes up the amount that you need a budget for each trip, which also changes the total amount dedicated to each trip versus the amount that goes in the trip bucket versus the amount that goes in the retirement bucket.
Well, she could also play some games with that, right? I mean, if the 5,000 comes in low, she can then allocate the rest of that money toward the next trip to go to a high cost area.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's
keep
true.
the budget the same. The long-term budget's the same, but the short-run budget just varies based on the place that she goes.
Right. Exactly. So maybe Uzbekistan is $3,000, but Lesotho ends up costing $6,000, right?
I was so surprised, by the way, just in Western Europe, just moving across the globe a little bit, the difference. I'd never traveled through Spain until just a few months ago. The cost of traveling through Spain, so much less than France, which I've been to several times. I was just blown away by the cost difference. Countries right next door to each other. And I felt like I could buy a lot more with a lot less in Spain. I was surprised. Just country to country, right next to each other. Italy, not cheap and right around the corner.
Yeah. Food in Albania has gotten really expensive. The average Albanian, I was reading in the Financial Times the other day, spends 60% of their household income on groceries.
On groceries. Wow. I just remember, to your point too, when we were in Laos, just the you could spend tons of money there. I mean, and by spend tons of money, I mean almost none. You can live very, very well for a long time on very little money. in lots of places, but Southeast Asia was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, Judy, I love I can't say this enough. I love the destinations that you're looking at. I love it when people go to places that are less common as travel destinations, because and I say this as somebody who has been to nearly 50 countries at this point. I don't think I've quite hit the 50 mark, but I'm pretty close. There's a different quality of experience when you're in a place where you're not on a tourist conveyor belt. There's just a certain rawness, authenticity. I know that's an overused term, but yeah. So
I find they're two completely different experiences, and not that. And by the way, I appreciate the tourist.
yeah, no, I like
conveyor
them
belt.
both. Yeah,
I do. But like as an example for me now that I've been to Western Europe several times, I was telling Cheryl that almost feels less like a vacation and more like just like my little getaway place, not like I'm not exploring, but certainly when I was, when we were in Southeast Asia, there were places we went where it felt much more like I was learning. I was experiencing some brand new culture. The people I was meeting with, I didn't know that were, that were from Michigan originally, living on the Arkansas-Texas border. They didn't see me every day, which was fascinating and so fun to see and experience these just different cultures. It was awesome.
Right. Well, Judy, thank you for the question, and enjoy all of your trips. Send us postcards.